My name is Claire Donovan. I'm 37 years old, and I've been an emergency room doctor at one of Charlotte's busiest trauma centers for almost 12 years. I've watched miracles happen. I've watched families fall apart in waiting rooms. I've told parents news no parent should ever hear. After enough years in emergency medicine, you learn how to stay calm when everyone else is falling apart. That's probably why my ex-mother-in-law hated me so much. She always said I was too cold, too quiet, too focused on work. The truth, I just refused to make a scene. That afternoon, though, she was counting on one. It was just after 5 o'clock on a Thursday. My shift had officially ended 30 minutes earlier, but emergencies don't care what time you're supposed to clock out. I had spent the last hour helping stabilize a teenager after a highway pileup. My back hurt. My coffee had gone cold hours ago. I couldn't wait to get home, take a hot shower, order Thai food, and spend the rest of the night pretending the world didn't exist. I grabbed my bag from my locker, slipped my phone into my pocket, then headed toward the main lobby. The hospital was unusually busy. Visitors carrying flowers, children chasing each other near the gift shop, nurses rushing between departments. It felt like any other Thursday, until I heard a familiar voice. Well, I'll be damned. I froze. Not because I was scared, because I recognized that voice instantly. I'd spent nearly 9 years listening to it criticize everything about me. I slowly turned around. There she stood. Diane Donovan, perfect blonde hair, cream-colored designer coat, pearl earrings, a smile so fake it belonged in a TV commercial. She looked exactly the same, only older, and somehow even meaner. She walked toward me with the confidence of someone who believed she'd already won. "Claire, it's been a while." I forced a polite smile. "Hello, Diane." She looked me up and down, still wearing my navy scrubs, still carrying my stethoscope, still exhausted after another 12-hour shift. "You still working all those crazy hours?" I nodded. "Someone has to." She chuckled. "That's always been your problem. You cared more about strangers than your own family." I didn't answer. There was no point. I'd learned years ago that arguing with Diane was like yelling at a brick wall. She didn't want conversation. She wanted control. Then her eyes lit up, like she'd just remembered why she'd come over. "Oh, I almost forgot. I have wonderful news." Something about the way she smiled made my stomach tighten. "My son is happier than he's ever been." I stayed quiet. She stepped closer. So much happier. Turns out, he just needed the right woman. There it was. The real reason she'd walked over. Not to say hello, not to be polite. She wanted an audience. A couple standing nearby slowed their pace. A volunteer arranging magazines looked over. Even one of the receptionists glanced up from her computer. Diane noticed. She loved attention. "My Ryan finally has peace." She laughed softly. "He smiles again. He comes home to someone who actually makes him feel appreciated." She leaned in just enough that only I could hear the next sentence. "And she's pregnant?" For a second, everything around me went quiet. Not because I was shocked. I'd already heard the rumor weeks ago. But hearing it from Diane, watching how proud she looked, that was different. She mistook my silence for heartbreak. "Oh, don't look so surprised. You couldn't give him the family he wanted." "Someone else did." She smiled wider. "I guess everything happens for a reason." I looked straight into her eyes. Calm, steady, the same expression I wore while stitching up trauma patients. "Are you finished?" She blinked. She clearly expected tears. Or anger. Instead, I adjusted the strap on my bag. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "You still think you know the whole story." Her smile faded. "What does that mean?" "It means there are some truths you can't bury forever." She laughed. "Oh, sweetheart. You've always been dramatic." "No." I shook my head. "I've just been patient." She crossed her arms. "Patient for what?" I looked toward the hospital entrance. A black SUV had just pulled into the circular driveway outside. "Right on time." I smiled. "You'll find out soon enough." Without another word, I walked past her. Behind me, I heard her laughing. Still bitter after all this time. I didn't turn around. Because for the first time since my marriage fell apart, I wasn't walking away from the truth. I was walking toward it. And before another month was over, the Donovan family would wish they'd never underestimated the quiet woman they thought they'd already defeated. The drive home should have taken 20 minutes. Instead, it felt like 5. My hands stayed steady on the steering wheel, but my mind kept replaying Diane's smug smile. She's pregnant. Ryan finally has the family he deserves. 5 years ago, hearing those words would have destroyed me. Now, they barely moved the needle. Not because I didn't care, because I'd already mourned the man I thought I'd married. When people hear you're divorced, they usually ask the same question. What happened? Did he cheat? Did you grow apart? Was it money? The truth is, real marriages rarely fall apart because of one giant explosion. Most die a little every day. One lie, one broken promise, one silent dinner, one ignored phone call. Until one morning, you wake up next to a complete stranger. That's exactly what happened to Ryan and me. I met Ryan Donovan when I was 28. He was funny, confident, the kind of man who could walk into any room and make everyone laugh. He worked in commercial real estate and always seemed to know somebody everywhere we went. Our first date lasted 6 hours. The restaurant closed around us, and we ended up sitting on a park bench talking until almost midnight. Before I got out of his truck, he smiled and said, "I have a feeling I'm going to marry you." I laughed. Takes guts saying that on a first date. I'm serious. I've never felt like this before. Looking back, maybe neither of us knew what forever actually meant. The first 3 years were honestly wonderful. We bought a small brick house outside Charlotte, adopted a golden retriever named Cooper, argued over paint colors, burned dinner together, laughed over absolutely nothing. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Or at least, I thought it was. Things started changing after Ryan's promotion. He began traveling almost every week. Atlanta, Dallas, Nashville, Chicago. There was always another meeting, another client, another flight. At first, I believed him. Why wouldn't I? Marriage is built on trust. Then little things stopped making sense. His phone never left his hand. He suddenly changed every password. He started sleeping with the screen facing down. When I'd ask how his trip went, his answers got shorter. Fine. Busy. Nothing exciting. The man who used to tell me every detail about his day barely looked up from his phone anymore. One Friday night, I got home after a 14-hour shift. The house was dark. Ryan wasn't there. I texted him, "Everything okay?" No reply. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Still with clients. Don't wait up. Simple enough. Except an hour later, my best friend sent me a photo. She didn't know Ryan was in it. She was taking a picture of her birthday dinner downtown, in the corner of the restaurant. There he was, laughing, holding hands with a woman I'd never seen before. No clients, no business meeting. Just dinner. I stared at that picture for nearly 10 minutes, waiting for my brain to come up with another explanation. It never did. When Ryan came home after midnight, I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I simply placed my phone on the kitchen counter. The photo was still open. He looked at it. His entire face changed. For the first time in our marriage, Ryan had no excuse. No clever joke. No quick explanation. Nothing. Finally, he whispered, "It's not what it looks like." I almost laughed. "Really?" "Because it looks exactly like you lied to me." He rubbed his forehead. "Claire, I can explain. You've got one chance." He stayed silent. That silence told me everything. The next morning, his mother showed up, uninvited. Of course she did. Diane never believed in boundaries. She walked into my kitchen carrying cinnamon rolls like she was arriving for Sunday brunch. Then she looked at me and sighed dramatically. "You know, men don't usually wander unless something's missing at home." I stared at her. "I'm sorry?" She shrugged. "I'm just saying, Ryan works hard. He deserves attention. He deserves affection. And maybe," she smiled, "you've been too busy playing doctor." That was the moment I realized something. She wasn't surprised. She already knew. Maybe she'd known for weeks. Maybe months. Instead of holding her son accountable, she was preparing to blame me. I looked at Ryan. He never defended me. Not once. He just sat there, looking at the floor. That hurt more than the affair itself. Because betrayal from an enemy is expected. Betrayal from the person who promised to protect you changes something inside you forever. I packed an overnight bag that afternoon. Ryan followed me upstairs. "Claire, please don't leave." I zipped the suitcase. "You already left." "What?" "The day you started lying." He reached for my hand. I stepped back. "No, you don't get to touch me anymore." For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. Not because he was losing me, because he was finally facing consequences. As I walked out the front door, Diane called after me, "You'll regret this." I turned around one last time. No, I'll regret trusting people who never deserved it. Then I got into my car and drove away. I thought that was the hardest day of my life. I had no idea. The real nightmare hadn't even started yet. The first week after I left Ryan, I didn't cry. I didn't call him. I didn't even check his social media. I threw myself into work. The ER became my escape. Inside those hospital walls, nobody cared that my marriage had fallen apart. Patients didn't ask questions. They just needed help, and helping people was the only thing that still made sense. Outside the hospital, it was a different story. One Sunday morning, I stopped by my usual coffee shop. The place where everyone knew my order. Large caramel latte? Extra shot? Not this time. The barista smiled awkwardly. "Morning, Claire." Something felt off. As I waited for my drink, I noticed two women whispering across the room. One of them glanced at me, then quickly looked away. I'd seen that look before. Pity. Later that afternoon, my cousin Hannah called. "Claire, can I ask you something?" "Sure." There was a long pause. "Is it true you couldn't have kids?" My heart dropped. "What?" "People are saying that's why Ryan left." I closed my eyes. Of course, the rumor had started. And who told them that? Hannah hesitated. "I don't know, but everyone seems to know." By Monday, the whispers had reached the hospital. Nothing obvious, just little things. People suddenly acting uncomfortable, conversations stopping when I walked into the break room. Even one nurse asked quietly, "Are you doing okay?" I smiled. "I'm fine." But inside, I knew exactly who was behind it. Diane. She'd found the perfect story. A story that made Ryan the victim, and me the broken wife. That night, my phone rang. Brooke Ellis, my best friend. "Hey Claire, how are you holding up?" "I'm surviving. I'm really sorry about everything." For the first time all week, I felt myself relax. Maybe I still had one person in my corner. Then Brooke said something strange. "You know, Ryan never stopped wanting a family." I frowned. "What does that have to do with anything?" She quickly laughed. "Nothing. I just mean, maybe things happen for a reason." After we hung up, I stared at my phone. Something about that conversation didn't feel right. I couldn't explain why, but for the first time, I wondered, whose side was Brooke really on? That weird feeling about Brooke wouldn't leave me alone. I kept telling myself I was imagining things. Brooke had been my best friend for almost 15 years. She stood beside me on my wedding day. She held my hand when my dad passed away. She wasn't capable of betraying me. Right? At least, that's what I wanted to believe. A few days later, Brooke stopped by my apartment. She brought Chinese takeout and my favorite cheesecake. "For old time's sake," she smiled. For the first hour, everything felt normal. We laughed, watched TV, talked about work. Not once did she mention Ryan. It actually felt comforting. As she got ready to leave, her phone rang. "I have to take this." She stepped onto my balcony. While I cleaned up the coffee table, her purse tipped over. Lipstick, keys, wallet, and a folded receipt. I wasn't trying to snoop. I bent down to pick everything up. Then one name caught my eye. The Oak Room Steakhouse. I froze. That restaurant. It was the same place where Ryan had claimed he was having a business dinner. The night I caught him lying. The receipt was dated the exact same night. My stomach tightened. Brooke walked back inside. "You okay?" I quickly handed her purse back. "Yeah, I'm fine." She smiled. "See you soon." The second the door closed, I couldn't stop thinking about that receipt. Maybe it was just a coincidence, or maybe it wasn't. For the first time, I started asking myself a question I never thought I'd ask. How much did Brooke really know? That receipt should have been meaningless. A piece of paper. Nothing more, but no matter how hard I tried to convince myself it was just a coincidence, I couldn't shake the feeling in my gut. For the first time since my divorce, I wasn't questioning Ryan. I was questioning Brooke, and that scared me even more. The next morning, I dragged myself through another 12-hour shift. Normally, work helped clear my head. Not that day. Every patient I treated, every chart I signed, my mind kept drifting back to that restaurant receipt. Same restaurant. Same night. Same date. There had to be an explanation. There had to be, because the alternative was something I wasn't ready to believe. That evening, Brooke texted me. "Brooke, dinner this Friday? My treat." I stared at the message for almost a minute. A week ago, I would have replied instantly. Instead, I typed, "Claire, sure. Same place as always?" She answered almost immediately. "Brooke, perfect." Nothing seemed unusual. But I decided something right then. For once, I wasn't going to be the one answering questions. I was going to ask them. Friday night arrived. We met at our favorite Italian restaurant downtown. Brooke looked exactly like she always did. Stylish blazer, perfect makeup, confident smile. If she was hiding something, she was good at it. "So," she said as she picked up the menu. "How's work?" "Busy," she nodded. "And Ryan?" I looked up. "What about him?" She shrugged. "I don't know. I figured maybe he'd called." My eyes stayed on her. "He hasn't." "Oh." She looked relieved. It was only for a second, but I saw it. Halfway through dinner, I decided to test her. "Funny thing happened yesterday." She looked up. "What?" "I drove past the Oak Room. For the first time that night." Her smile disappeared. "Just for a second." "You did?" "Yeah." It reminded me of the night Ryan said he had a business dinner. She reached for her water. "Oh, what about it?" I remembered someone else was there that night. She froze. Barely, but enough. Then she forced a laugh. "What a weird coincidence." Coincidence. The exact word I'd been repeating to myself all week. After dinner, we walked toward the parking garage. Brooke hugged me goodbye. "You'll get through this." "I know." She smiled. "You're stronger than you think." I watched her walk away. Then something happened. She climbed into a black SUV. Not just any SUV. I recognized it instantly. I'd spent years sitting in the passenger seat. It was Ryan's. My heart skipped. Brooke didn't notice me. Ryan pulled away before I could even process what I'd just seen. I stood there, completely frozen. Maybe he was just giving her a ride. Maybe. But deep down, I already knew. Too many coincidences stopped being coincidences. That night, sleep never came. Around 2 a.m, I opened an old photo album on my phone. Vacation pictures, birthday parties, Christmas mornings. Brooke was in almost every memory. Smiling beside me, standing beside Ryan, standing beside us. Then one picture caught my attention. It had been taken almost a year before my divorce. We were all at a neighborhood barbecue. Ryan and Brooke were talking in the background. I'd never noticed before, but they weren't looking at the camera. They were looking at each other. Smiling, a smile that suddenly didn't feel innocent anymore. I zoomed in. Then I zoomed in again. A chill ran down my spine. How had I never seen it? Or maybe I never wanted to. The next morning my phone buzzed. A text from Brooke. "Last night was fun. We should do it again soon." I stared at the screen. Then for the first time in 15 years, I didn't reply. Because a question kept echoing in my head. Was Ryan the first person to betray me? Or had my best friend been lying to me all along? I wanted to call Brooke. I wanted to call Ryan. I wanted to demand answers from both of them. Instead, I did nothing. After years of working in the emergency room, I'd learned one important lesson. Never make a decision while your emotions are in control. So I stayed quiet, not because I was weak, because I wanted the truth, not another lie. The following Monday, I arrived at the hospital before sunrise. The parking lot was nearly empty. Cool morning air filled the silence as I walked toward the employee entrance. Normally, I would have been thinking about my patients. That morning, I couldn't stop thinking about Ryan's SUV. Why was Brooke with him? If they were just friends, why hide it? Around lunchtime, I finally gave in. I opened Facebook. Ryan hadn't blocked me. He rarely posted anything. But his mother, Diane, posted everything. Vacation photos, church events, family dinners, birthdays. Every moment had to be shared. I scrolled through her page. Nothing. Then, a photo from 3 months earlier stopped me. It showed Diane hosting a backyard barbecue. Ryan stood beside her, smiling. Several friends surrounded them. In the corner of the picture, almost hidden behind another couple, was Brooke. I frowned. I didn't remember being invited. I kept scrolling. Another picture. Christmas dinner. Brooke again. Another. A church fundraiser. Brooke. Another. Ryan's birthday. Brooke. Each photo was taken while Ryan and I were still married. A strange feeling settled in my chest. How many times had they all been together? Without me? My phone buzzed. It was Hannah. Hey, you busy? Just on my lunch break. I wasn't sure if I should tell you this. My stomach tightened. What happened? I ran into Ryan yesterday. I stayed silent. He wasn't alone. My grip on the phone tightened. Who was with him? Another pause. Brooke. I closed my eyes. So you saw them too. You knew? I suspected. Hannah sighed. Claire. They looked comfortable. Comfortable. That one word hurt more than I expected. Not because they were together. Because it sounded like they'd been together for a while. That evening, I pulled into my apartment complex. As I checked my mailbox, an elderly neighbor smiled at me. Claire? Yes? She hesitated. I hope you don't mind me asking. Is everything okay between you and your husband? My ex-husband. Oh. She looked embarrassed. I only asked because I've seen another woman visiting his house quite a bit. I forced a smile. Thank you. She nodded awkwardly and walked away. I stood there staring at my mailbox. Another woman. Not once. Not twice. Quite a bit. That meant this hadn't started after our divorce. It had started long before. Back inside my apartment, I opened my laptop. For the first time, I created a folder. I named it one simple word, evidence. I saved screenshots of Diane's photos. I wrote down dates, names, places, everything. Maybe none of it meant anything. Or maybe it would someday. I didn't know it then. But that little folder would eventually become the reason. Ryan's perfect new life came crashing down. I closed my laptop, looked out my apartment window, and whispered to myself, keep lying. The truth always catches up. By Wednesday morning, I had stopped looking for coincidences. There were too many. Brooke showing up in old family photos. My neighbor seeing her at Ryan's house. Diane acting like Brooke had always been part of the family. Piece by piece, the picture was becoming impossible to ignore. Still, I needed proof, not assumptions. Just before noon, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. Normally, I would have ignored it. Something told me not to. Hello? A nervous female voice answered. Is this Dr. Claire Donovan? Yes. My name is Melissa. We've never met, but I think you deserve to know something. I sat down. What is this about? It's about Ryan. Melissa hesitated. I worked with him for almost 2 years. My heartbeat quickened. Okay. I didn't know he was married until much later. What do you mean? He never talked about you. He acted like he was practically single. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. She continued. When people asked if he had a wife, he'd say, it's complicated. I closed my eyes. That sounded exactly like Ryan. Never technically lying, but never telling the truth either. Melissa sighed. I've been feeling guilty. Guilty about what? There were rumors at the office. What kind of rumors? That he was seeing someone. My fingers tightened around the phone. Did you ever see who it was? No. But I saw them leave together once. When? She gave me a date. I quickly opened my calendar. My stomach dropped. That date was almost 6 months before I moved out. I'm sorry, Melissa whispered. If I'd known the truth, I would have contacted you sooner. It's okay. No, it isn't. Before hanging up, she said one last thing. Claire, whatever story Ryan is telling people, it isn't the whole story. The call ended. I stared at my phone for several minutes. For months, I'd wondered whether I was overreacting. Now, a complete stranger had confirmed my worst fear. Ryan hadn't made one mistake. He'd been living 2 different lives. That evening, I added another document to my evidence folder. I typed one sentence at the top of the page. The truth isn't coming together by accident anymore. As I hit save, my phone lit up again. This time, it was Ryan, his first call in nearly 2 months. I let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. Then it stopped. A second later, a text message appeared. We need to talk. It's important. I looked at the screen, then slowly smiled. For the first time, Ryan wanted to talk. And somehow, I had a feeling he wasn't calling to apologize. He was calling because someone else was starting to panic. The next day, I almost didn't go. I stood outside Harper Cafe with one hand on the door, wondering if this was a mistake. Ryan had lied to me for months. What could he possibly have to say now? I took a deep breath and walked inside. He was already there. Same corner booth. Same black coffee. But he looked different. His beard was untrimmed. Dark circles sat under his eyes. The confident man I married was gone. When he saw me, he stood up. "Thanks for coming." I didn't smile. "You said 10 minutes." He nodded. "That's all I need." I sat across from him but kept my purse on my lap. A silent reminder. I wasn't staying long. For almost 30 seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, Ryan broke the silence. "How have you been?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Seriously? That's how you want to start this?" He looked embarrassed. I didn't know what to say. "You should have thought about that before you cheated." His shoulders dropped. "I deserve that." "Yes, you do." The waitress walked over. "Can I get you anything?" "Just water," I replied. The moment she walked away, Ryan leaned forward. "I need a favor." I stared at him. Of course, not an apology, not accountability. A favor. What kind of favor? He rubbed his hands together nervously. "It's about the divorce." My eyes narrowed. "What about it?" "I need you to sign something." I blinked. "What?" "It's just paperwork. Nothing major." I folded my arms. "Then why didn't your lawyer send it?" Ryan didn't answer. That told me everything. He pulled a manila envelope from his bag and slid it across the table. "I'd really appreciate it if you looked it over." I didn't even touch it. "What is it?" "It's just easier if we settle everything quietly." Quietly. That word immediately raised every alarm in my head. We'd already finalized our divorce months ago. There shouldn't have been anything left to settle. So why now? Ryan looked toward the window before answering. "Things have changed." "Meaning?" He hesitated, then quietly said, "Claire, I'm in trouble." For the first time since sitting down, I saw genuine fear in his face. Not guilt. Fear. I looked at the unopened envelope, then back at him. "What kind of trouble?" Ryan swallowed hard. "The kind that could ruin everything." Before I could ask another question, his phone started ringing. He glanced at the screen. The color drained from his face. I caught one quick glimpse of the caller ID. Brooke. He declined the call immediately. But it rang again, and again. I looked at Ryan, then at the phone. Slowly, a question formed in my mind. What were they so desperate to keep me from finding out? Ryan stared at his phone as it continued to vibrate across the table. Brooke. Calling again? He declined it without saying a word. A second later, she called a third time. I folded my arms. She's pretty determined. Ryan forced a weak smile. "It's not what you think." I almost laughed. "You know what's funny? Every lie you've ever told me started with those exact words." He looked down at the table. For the first time, he had nothing to say. I reached for the manila envelope. "If you want me to sign something, I'm reading it first." Ryan nodded. "Fair." I opened the flap and pulled out several papers. The first page looked ordinary. Legal forms, property records, nothing unusual. Then I reached the last page. There was one paragraph highlighted in yellow. I read it twice, then looked up. "You want me to give up my share of the lake house?" Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. "It's complicated." "No." I pushed the papers back toward him. "It's actually very simple. My name is on that property. It was purchased while we were married. So why would I sign it away?" Ryan let out a long sigh. "Because I need to sell it. So sell it." "I can't." "Why not?" He hesitated, then quietly admitted, "I already promised the money to someone else." My eyebrows lifted. "Someone else?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. We both knew exactly who that someone was. Before I could say another word, the cafe door opened. A woman walked inside wearing oversized sunglasses and a baseball cap. She scanned the room. The second she spotted us, she froze, then turned around like she'd walked into the wrong place. I recognized her immediately. Brooke. She'd followed Ryan. Or maybe she'd followed me. Ryan closed his eyes. "Oh no." I looked back at him. "You invited her?" "I swear I didn't." Outside the window, I watched Brooke climb back into her car. She sped away before either of us could move. I turned toward Ryan. Now I'm really curious. What exactly are the two of you hiding? Ryan leaned forward. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. Claire, I made a huge mistake. I figured that out months ago. No. He shook his head. I mean after the divorce. He looked like he wanted to say more, but fear kept stopping him. Finally, he whispered, Brooke knows things that could destroy me. I stared at him. What does that even mean? He swallowed hard. I can't tell you here. I stood up and grabbed my purse. Then don't. His eyes widened. Claire, wait. You had your chance. I walked toward the exit. Just before I reached the door, Ryan called my name one last time. If you leave now, you'll never know why Brooke really became my girlfriend. I stopped. My hand rested on the door. Slowly, I turned around. For the first time, I wasn't wondering if Ryan was lying. I was wondering if Brooke had been playing both of us all along. I slowly turned around. Ryan was still sitting in the booth. His coffee had gone cold. His hands were shaking, for the first time since I'd known him. He looked like a man who had run out of excuses. I walked back to the table. You've got 5 minutes. After that, I'm leaving. He nodded. That's fair. Ryan took a deep breath. I didn't plan to be with Brooke. I crossed my arms. You expect me to believe that? No, I don't expect you to believe anything I say. But it's the truth. I stayed silent. He continued. After you moved out, I was angry. At you. At myself. At everything. So I started talking to Brooke. As a friend. I let out a sarcastic laugh. And I'm supposed to believe it just stayed friendly? He looked away. It didn't. Ryan rubbed his forehead. She was easy to talk to. She always agreed with me. If I complained about work, she took my side. If I complained about our marriage, she blamed you. I felt my chest tighten. So she encouraged it. He nodded slowly. I just didn't realize how much. Then one night, we had dinner. Just dinner. I interrupted him. The same night you told me you were with clients? His face turned pale. Yeah. I looked out the cafe window. So you lied from the very beginning. I did. I'm sorry. I looked back at him. No. You're sorry because it caught up with you. He couldn't argue, because he knew I was right. Ryan leaned closer. Claire, I thought Brooke cared about me. But after the divorce, she changed. How? Everything became about money. My eyebrows lifted. Money? She kept asking about the lake house, our savings, my retirement account, everything. I frowned. That's why you wanted me to sign those papers. He nodded. I promised her we'd sell the house. But legally, I can't without your signature. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, I asked, so let me get this straight. You cheated on your wife, destroyed your marriage, moved on with Brooke. And now, she's pressuring you for money? Ryan looked completely defeated. Yeah. I shook my head slowly. That's called consequences. Just then, Ryan's phone buzzed again. This time, he didn't hide the screen. A message from Brooke appeared. Did she sign the papers? A second message arrived before either of us moved. Don't mess this up, Ryan. Then a third. Remember what I know? Ryan immediately locked the phone. But it was too late. I'd already read enough. I looked him straight in the eyes. What does she mean? Remember what I know? Ryan's face lost every bit of color. He swallowed hard, then whispered the words I never expected to hear. Because Brooke has something that could send me to prison. My heart stopped. Prison? Ryan nodded. Tears filled his eyes. This isn't just about cheating anymore. It's so much worse. I stared at Ryan. Prison. He nodded slowly. His hands were trembling so badly he could barely hold his coffee cup. Claire, I swear I never meant for any of this to happen. I leaned back in my chair. Then start talking. No more lies. No more half-truths. I want everything. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment before speaking. It started about a year ago. My company was struggling. We lost 2 major clients. Everyone was panicking. So were you? I asked. He nodded. I thought if I could close one big deal, I could fix everything. He looked down at the table. But I made a terrible decision. What kind of decision? I signed paperwork that I never should have signed. I frowned. What paperwork? Financial documents. I wasn't supposed to approve them, but I did. I stared at him. You committed fraud? Ryan didn't answer. His silence was answer enough. I let out a slow breath. So Brooke knows? Yes. How? Ryan rubbed his face. Because she found the documents. When? After you moved out. She was helping me organize boxes. She opened a folder and saw everything. I shook my head in disbelief. So instead of turning you in, she used it against you. Ryan looked completely defeated. At first, she promised she'd never tell anyone. But then, she started asking for things. What things? Money. The lake house. Expensive vacations. Jewelry. She kept saying, if you really love me, you'll prove it. And every time I said no, she reminded me what she knew. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So she's blackmailing you. Ryan nodded. Yes. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, I asked, why are you telling me now? He looked me straight in the eyes. Because I'm out of options. I thought I could handle it. I can't. And I think she's about to ask for even more. I folded my arms. So you came to the woman you betrayed. Because you need help. Ryan's eyes filled with regret. I know I don't deserve it. No, you don't. I stood up. Ryan quickly looked at me. Claire, wait. I've told you the truth. I picked up my purse. No. You've told me your version. There's a difference. As I turned toward the exit, my phone vibrated. A text message. Unknown number. I opened it. There was only one sentence. Don't believe a single word Ryan tells you. A second message appeared immediately. If you want the real truth, meet me tomorrow. Alone. No name. No explanation. Just an address. I looked up at Ryan. He hadn't sent it. Which meant someone else knew we had met. And somehow, they'd been watching us the entire time. The next morning, I drove to the address in the mysterious text. It wasn't an abandoned office. It was the headquarters of Ryan's former company. A woman in a gray business suit was waiting outside. You must be Claire. I nodded. I'm Amanda. I'm the company's legal counsel. My heart skipped. So, you sent the text? Yes. She handed me a thick envelope. Everything you need is in here. I opened it. Inside were official documents proving Ryan had admitted his mistakes months earlier and had already begun cooperating with investigators. He didn't run away from what he did, Amanda said. He came forward before anyone reported him. I looked up. So Brooke? Amanda nodded. She used confidential documents to threaten him. She demanded money, property, and if he refused, she promised to destroy his life. I closed the folder. For the first time, I finally understood everything. Ryan had betrayed me. That would never change. But Brooke hadn't been the innocent woman everyone believed she was. She'd been manipulating him from the very beginning. A few months later, the investigation officially ended. Ryan accepted responsibility for his mistakes. Brooke was charged with blackmail and other related offenses. Diane, the woman who proudly announced that her son had finally found a real woman, never looked me in the eye again. As for me, I stayed exactly where I belonged, working in the emergency room, helping people, building a life that no longer depended on someone else's choices. One afternoon, as I walked through the hospital lobby, I caught my reflection in the glass doors. For the first time in years, I smiled, not because everything had been easy, but because I had survived it. Sometimes the greatest revenge is simply living a happy life after someone expected you to fall apart. And trust me, that victory lasts forever. The end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next dramatic story. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were Claire? And let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to see viewers from all around the world. If this story kept you hooked, share it with your friends and family so they can enjoy it too. Thanks for watching First Choice Stories. We'll see you in the next story.